And here we go. Hey, how are you guys doing? How are you guys doing? Thank you so much, as always, for tuning in to another awesome episode here at Brian's Place. Thank you, as always, for rocking and rolling with me. I appreciate you. Guess what, y'all? Today we are in for a treat. Today we are in for a true treat indeed. We have an awesome, amazing special guest today. Today's special guest is an entrepreneur. She is passionate about helping people remove their levels of shame. Today's featured guest is a mother, a grandmother, a motivational speaker, a published author, a prayer warrior, a chain breaker, and most of all, she's a woman after God's heart. Please welcome the one and only bridge over troubled waters for many, my good friend, the one and only Michelle Farrar.
Hey there. Good morning, Brian. Good to be on your show. Excited to be here today.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come on. I definitely appreciate it.
Yes, this is exciting. I'm really excited about the opportunity to be on and um, enjoying what you're doing with this show.
I praise God. Thanks. So, first of all, major congratulations are in effect. You have a new book coming out later next month. Is that correct?
I do have a new book coming out. It's called Nine Foundational Lessons to Being a Solid Kingdom Leader. And I know that's a mouthful, but it's just some core values that I've learned on my lesson um, do my journey of Christ and becoming a leader. And they're the lessons that have solidified my walk and helped me to become a strong leader. So that is what the book is about. And I'm excited because it's due to come out March 29th.
March 29th. That's awesome. Everyone watching this, make sure you check where can the book, where will it be available?
You can catch it on Amazon. It will be on Amazon, and then it'll also be available on my website, which will be michellemfarrar.com.
Okay. So, everyone, please make sure you get it. I believe it will greatly be a blessing. And you kind of already answered my next question. I was going to ask you, what was it in you that said it's time not just for a book, but it's time to share these gems that God has given you as far as being a solid kingdom leader?
What led me to writing the book is I went on a missions trip to Africa last June. And during the trip, we didn't have Wi Fi and things like that, which was really good. And I kept a journal with me the whole entire time because I wanted to be present. I wanted to capture the moments as they were happening and just really write, so I would be able to take it with me when I went home. But when I came back from the trip, I was really having a hard time with transitioning back into, regular life and trying to process my thoughts. And as I got to sit down and I was trying to just write and process what the highlights of the trip were, the Lord started giving me points that really stood out to me throughout the journey. So I started writing these points, and then as I started writing the points, He really started speaking to me, showing that these were just not points that were highlighted throughout the trip. These are points that have been highlighted throughout my entire walk with Him.
Hmm.
And so that's how the book came to be. It started with just a processing and really just trying to be intimate with the Lord and get all the feelings and emotions that I was having out, but it turned into something more than that.
Yeah. And I really like what you said. Like, and sometimes that happens a lot where God has to, where I believe, God's speaking all the time, but sometimes He has to isolate us or get us away from the noise of every day and get us to a place where it's just like Him and us, where we can, like, hear more clearly from him. It's almost like how the radio is always on, but it's only when you tune into the right frequency that you can hear it, more clearly. So it's awesome how God does that.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
And so I'm excited about that. And is this your first book?
This is my first book, and I'm super excited about it. I've been wanting to write for years. I will publish. I've been writing, but I wanted to publish something for years. So this will be my first published work, and it's also coming with a companion journal. So I did a companion journal based on one of the chapters in the book. It's a gratitude journal. So I made one for men and one for women
Uh,
so they can practice some of the principles that I put in the book.
That's good. I will definitely be needing a copy of that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so, Dr. Cindy Trim, who is known as a catalyst for change and a voice of hope to the nations, once said, "We are like diamonds. Circumstances call forth our highest potential." And when you hear those words, what comes to your mind?
When I hear those words, it just really, really made me think of my life and just life in general. And when we're faced with challenges, that is really where you see it's like a sink or swim. And this is either where you see people rise or fall. What is in you and who you are will always come to the forefront. So I love challenges. I love and hate challenges. I'm never asking for the Lord to give me more challenges, but always after the fact, you're grateful for it because of what it pulled up out of you. And even when it's something negative, I've learned to be grateful because then it lets me know what I need to work on and what is hindering me from going to the next level and so to the next place.
Mhm.
So challenges, it starts to show you what's in there. And if
Mhm.
you just like diamonds, I was looking into diamonds and the process that they go through to get excavated. It is a work, and
Yeah.
they're not on the surface. You have to actually go digging for them, and it's hard work. It's a challenge. It's a struggle to get down to them, but what you find when you get there is worth the find. And
Yeah.
so when we look at challenges in that way, when we look at our lives like diamonds and see like, okay, I'm going to this because God is trying to get to the point of value.
Yeah.
So I love that.
That's awesome. That's great. And when you think about it, it's like a diamond is simply a piece of coal that did well under pressure.
Hmm.
you know and there's always a process.
Hmm.
There's the bridge of process which connects the promise to the manifestation, and I believe like it's so important not to abort the process. I've never sat down and I've had a conversation with a caterpillar or a butterfly, but it's so awesome that a caterpillar doesn't have to go to the 7-Eleven down the street to get a pair of wings on sale for 99. All it has to do is go through this process, and the process brings something out of the caterpillar that's been a part of it all along, which are its wings.
Yeah. But the thing about the caterpillar, and I'm glad you brought that up, is because it only has to go to that process, which
Mhm.
God has put in it. It's a natural process. It's going to go into the cocoon, but at
Mhm.
the same time, the cocoon takes it to death. Like it's excruciating process. Like it literally dies to one part of itself in order to become another.
Yeah.
So while it's in that cocoon, the challenges that it face is like literally life to death process. So, people think that because it's a process and because this is what God called you to, that it's supposed to be easy.
Mhm.
And that's not the case.
Yeah, that's real. I have a thing on my counter, and it says, faith doesn't make things easy, it makes them possible.
Exactly. Yes. Like that.
That's so true. And as you mentioned that, it's like it's just so important to be able to endure not only endure the process, but not to rush the process. How many times have put a pie in the oven, and then because of how hungry you were, you took it out only because it looked ready on the outside, but then when you stuck the fork in it, it was still frozen. Then you had to start the whole process all over again, and it's like
Hmm.
it is not good, especially when you're hungry and
Exactly. Yeah, because all you're gonna have to do is go back in, you
yeah.
know,
Hmm.
and you continue on the analogy that you used. With a cake, if you pull it out too soon, it falls, and you have to make the whole cake all over again.
Yeah.
Well, you got to finish the process because we think that if we abandon the process, that we're going to get to the end sooner, and really, you either wind up having to go back in and finish, or worst case scenario, you got to start back all over again. So
Yeah,
it's worth it just to finish the process.
definitely. And in this case, you definitely don't want to skip steps. Skipping steps is fine, but sometimes skipping steps could lead in a fall. So step by step. And I kind of believe like there's hidden gems in each step that help prepare you for the next step as well.
Yes, very important. Yeah, every step is necessary. When you look at that diamond process, there's a 5-step process when they're excavating the diamonds. And it goes, the first step is the crushing. And that's when they're really like breaking everything down and breaking everything off. And then it goes through a scrubbing process, then a separation process, a recovery process, and then finally it's clean, weighed, and packaged. And it takes all that process to be able to get the diamonds that we see in the store. And when I looked at, I was like, it totally parallels us, and the things that we go through. And when we get in the process, we go through the crushing. It's hard. It's like, oh, why is this so hard? Why is this such a challenge? But it's really the point of God breaking all this stuff off of you. He's breaking things that should not be there. It's crushing down, that breaking
Mhm.
that flesh down, getting all that extra stuff. Then he starts to clean you up and, remove all the debris. This is the part where the renewing of the mind starts to happen.
Mhm.
He starts to wash us with the word and transforming us by the mind. And then he starts to separate us because as your mind separates, then your circumstances in your circle starts to separate.
Yes, you're preaching now. Yeah.
Well, all of that, I was like, the process is the exact same. But people are willing to stick with the process when they realize that I'm going to get a diamond at the end. But if they can see it like Dr. Trim mentioned, that our life is like diamonds, people will be more willing to stick through the process.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. This whole interview could be about process.
Uh, we could talk about process for the next 50 years. Could talk about process.
Right? That's real. That's so true. And it just reminds me on that same note, like when you go to the airport and are about to catch a flight, before you get on the plane, you have to go through the security checkpoint where you want to make sure you aren't unknowingly bringing anything to your destination that doesn't belong. And so, likewise, constantly we have to go through this a mental and emotional checkpoint to make sure we aren't bringing anything from the old season with us into the new season, into that place where God is trying to bring us to.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. And so, onward, on that note, you offer onward sessions. Would you mind sharing what onward sessions are?
Sure. So I'm certified in inner healing and deliverance and also in life coaching. And so what I offer, my coaching program is called Onward. And it just means to go forth. And in the sessions, depending on what you need, one session is inner healing and deliverance. So what that is, we go into into the see the things that have been holding you back.
Mhm.
Usually there's some kind of lie we believed or something that happened, some kind of trauma has happened in our life that really has prevented people from stepping into purpose, destiny, and fulfillment of the call that is on their life. No matter what area of life they're called to, there's something hindering them. So what the inner healing does, it really goes and finds those places that where it happened and really bring healing to that. So that way, it's no longer making decisions in people's life. People got to know that pain buried alive doesn't die; it's still making decisions for you. And so um, we find that. So it's no longer making negative decisions and keeping you from moving into what God has called you to, but you get the freedom, you get the healing, and really receive the power that God has. When He died, He died, He did all of that for us,
Mhm.
but we have to actually do the work to by faith to accept what He has done. And
Yeah.
then the other side, the coaching part of it is okay, now I did the work. Now I'm ready to step into what's next. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
I'm ready to start the business. I'm ready to write the books, but I need help. I need the motivation. I need a little bit of tools. Like, what do I need to do? I need accountability. So the coaching helps you in that aspect to keep you accountable, keep you on track, help you to give you some idea, really
Mhm.
push
Yeah.
you into the next area that you're called to.
I like that. And something you said, can you say it again? You said pain buried alive.
Yeah, pain buried alive doesn't die.
Wow.
Um, it's still making decisions for you, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of things we see with people is the fruit of that pain. So they're thinking we see people acting up. They may have addictions or anger issues, be with whatever their thing is, withdrawn or whatever, and we think that that is the issue, and that's not the issue. That is the fruit of an issue that they try to bury and try to ignore, but it's still there, and now we're still seeing the result. We're seeing the results of that because of it.
That's good. That's deep. So it's almost like, instead of, if you bury pain, if you, try to cover up the root, it doesn't mean that the pain or the root is not there. It's just covered up and eventually it will spring forth. But if you're able to pull the pain up and, face it head on and pull up the root, and then once you get the root of something, then that's the end of that.
Yes. Yeah, that is exactly what it is. We're going to the root of it. We're going after the roots. Because if
I like
anybody has a yard, no matter how many times you cut those weeds down, they keep coming back.
it. Mhm.
It's because they weren't dug up. So you
Yeah.
have to go to the root of it, pull it up, so that way you can start producing a different harvest in your yard.
Yeah, that's so real. And when you think about it, it's hard to move forward if you're still tied to something behind you. Hence, what happened to Lot's wife. Her feet were moving forward, but her mind was more fascinated with what was behind her than what was before her, and
Hmm.
yeah, it kept her obviously from moving forward into what the place God had in store for her.
Hmm.
And also, I believe, like, obviously, we can look at our bodies, and there's a reason why our feet are facing forward instead of backwards. There's a reason why our eyes aren't on the back of our head. There's a reason why the windshield is much bigger than the rearview mirror, because what's behind us isn't as important as what we're walking into.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I only look to the past to as a reference point, as to learn. I look back there, learn. Okay. I say, okay, this happened. Why? And for testimonies, you need to look back and see what you overcome. But I'm never looking back there as a reason to go back. And one of the taglines for Onward is freedom is in front of you.
Amen.
And so,
Freedom is in front of you
yeah, so we always got to know that we always got to be going forward, always.
always.
Hmm.
That's true. And so, like, would you agree that when a person goes to the hospital, that the first part of them getting better is them being able to acknowledge that they're is pain. And likewise, would you agree that the first part of getting unstuck is first acknowledging that you are stuck?
Absolutely. I'm a nurse by trade. And so the first thing we ask when people come in is what's wrong? You know, you have to acknowledge if you, and it's funny because people always come in, or when I'm going to visit them, then they're telling me nothing, nothing,
Mm,
nothing. But if you don't acknowledge what's really happening, then it's hard for me to help you.
mm,
You know, and even in Genesis, when in chapter 3, when the Lord came into the garden, he asked him, he said, "Where are you?" You know, we've heard this before, and it wasn't because he didn't know where he was. He was
mm,
calling them into a place for them to recognize where they were, like acknowledge that, hey, I fell off.
mm,
And so, and that was a question to bring them back, you know, to redeem them. But because they refused to acknowledge where they were, you know, they went right into the blame. You know, we're living out the results of that now.
yeah.
You have to acknowledge the pain, and I know people don't like to acknowledge the pain because it's
Mm,
painful. That means I got to look back at it, and so they
mm,
don't want to relive that. But again, like I said before, you're not moving forward, it's still speaking.
yeah.
So you have to acknowledge it, so that way, with the goal, the reason I'm talking about it, because you see others who do acknowledge it all the time,
Mm,
but they're not doing anything with it. They're just, you know, hey, 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 just keep bringing it up. But you have to acknowledge it with the goal to get better.
yeah. That's so true. Otherwise, you'll leave the hospital, in the same state that you came, and it's almost like going to church and shouting hallelujah, dancing and all this. But if you're never transparent, if you're never open, then you'll leave in the same state that you came. If that makes sense.
Yes, exactly.
And so there's this quote. Well, not a quote, but if you live, everything connected to you will live. And if you die, everything connected to you will die. How did those words that the Lord spoke to you impact you and change the trajectory of your life?
Those words in 2011, my mom was in a hospital and she was coming to the end of her life.
Mm,
So I had been in prayer for her. I was interceding, you know, I was praying, of course, that she lived because she was young, you know, was by natural standards, it was too early. So, you know, and plus, it's my mom, don't want my mom to go. But a week before she died, the Lord woke me up at midnight and he told me, he said, "Your mom is going to die." And then he gave me instructions. He said that she was going to die, and this is what I needed to do going forward. And that's where he said this to me. He said, "You live, and everything connected to you will live. And if you die, everything connected to you will die." And at that point in my life, I was serving him, and I was, to the best of my ability, I had gained some victory and things like that. But from that moment, he started to take me on the journey to show one of the things that contributed to my mother's premature death was that pain unacknowledged,
mm,
and that she had a very hard life, and you know, it just accumulated and wind up having a lot of sicknesses and stuff like that, wind up taking her out. But this is where inner healing and deliverance was introduced to me, and the Lord started telling me, listen, because I was scared. And at that time when my mom died, she was like the fourth or fifth out of 12 siblings that had died prematurely. And she made it the furthest. So she made it to 53. All the rest of them had died in their 40s. And
mm,
I'm in my mid 30s, and I'm like, I'm getting really close to this time, Lord. I'm afraid, like, you're gonna have, what is this? And he just started taking me on the journey and showing me, like, Michelle, you got to deal with this stuff that you are carrying, you know,
mm,
the pain, the hurt, the different things that I had walked through that if I didn't start to do it and start to make the changes and really, really fully embrace the fullness of the word, really being transformed and letting his spirit do the work, if it took me out, then my children, my grandchildren, and everything, and anybody that I'm supposed to come in contact with and help,
Hmm.
it's going to take them out as well. But if I was willing to do the work and and go on the faith process and do what it takes to become healthy and whole and live according to what his word says, it would not only would I live, but everything connected to me would live. My children would live. Their future would be different and everything would be different for everybody else. So from that moment forward, it has become the motivating factor for everything that I do. And I realized I have to be whole. I have to um, do whatever it takes to my best of my ability. I'm going to fall and make mistakes, but to the best of my ability, I have to submit to the word and allow him to transform me, because it's not just me. If I go, there's so much more that's going to go. It's too much at stake for me not to for me to say that the pain is too great to do the work.
Hmm.
So that has become the driving force of my life, and it's the thing that makes me get up every day. Every time I get knocked down or get a crushing blow, and I'm like, I can't. That comes back before me, and it gives me the faith and the grace to get up and keep going after it.
Wow. Amen. I'm definitely sorry about your loss, but I pray that your mom's life, her love, and her legacy would continue to live on.
Yeah. Amen.
One thing you had mentioned I like is when you said that no matter what, you keep on getting back up, and it reminds me of like a tree in a storm. You know, it may blow to the left or blow to the right, but at the end of the storm, it's still standing. It reminds me of those toys. You may have had one like, kids have where you push the toy down, you push it down, and it bounces back up. And not only bounces back up, but it bounces back up with a smile on its face, almost as if saying, "You thought you could keep me down, but I'm back." And so with you, as you were speaking about different situations trying to keep you down, like each time I see you, bounce back, getting your bounce back on, and even bouncing back stronger than you were before.
Yeah. Exactly. And it only has been grace. It's only the grace of God and total dependency on him. I can't do none of it in my own strength. But this, my favorite one of my favorite scriptures is Mark 9:23, is all things are possible to him that believes. So, and I believe what he says, and I'm like, if he commanded that over my life, then it's possible for me to do it.
Mhm.
So exactly. Those knockovers are a little challenging, boy. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'll be want to stay down there, but his grace always gets me back up.
Yeah, and what's so awesome, like I believe God isn't concerned about how many times we fall, but He's concerned about how many times we get back a lot up. Like, okay, you fell this one, came to you out of nowhere, you fell, but you're getting back up. You got this.
Yeah. Yeah, also when it talks about excuse me, that his power is made perfect in our weakness.
That part.
So we boast in our infirmities. Like I am all jacked up, but when I'm weak, he is strong. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? So my life is just a dependency of him and proof that his ways work. So, you know, I'm gonna fall. I fell several times and I will fall again. But his love and his goodness and his grace will always get you back up.
yeah, definitely. And
Yeah.
that song by the great philosopher Donnie McClurkin, we fall down. He says, "A just man falls 7 times, but he gets back up.
Yes.
He gets back up."
Yeah.
and that's so important. And so, like, you are doing some awesome and amazing things now. So, when you were younger, did you ever imagine that you would be reaching people and impacting lives the way that you are now?
Not the way that I am now. Like when I was younger, I always had um, dreams that I am of a big life somehow. So back then, I equated it to being rich and famous, something like that. And then stuff started happening, and then I kind of lost that faith and hope for many years. I just didn't think my life would make a difference at all. But to do it this way, I never seen
Mm.
it. I never seen a call to a call of God on my life. No, maybe the other stuff, yes,
Yeah.
but like to be serving the Lord and bringing the word completely surprises me. And sometimes I still wake up every day like, you sure? So not this way, but yeah, there was I used to think so a little bit, and um I lost it for a long time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. You had mentioned that at one point you didn't feel you knew your purpose, and I just want to remind you and encourage you that when God, even before you were born, God knew you, and he put purpose in you. You can't just sneak here on the earth, no matter what, things may happen, but you're here on purpose, for a purpose, for a time such as this. So know that within your DNA, within your every cell in your body, like there's purpose attached, there's destiny attached.
Yes, I agree.
You definitely have a mission, and speaking of the mission, you have a brand called The Mission Is. Can you share what the mission is and how do you stay mission minded?
Yeah, so the mission is my it's my online store where I sell like graphic tees and journals and coffee cups, things like that.
Yeah.
And where that came about again, as I was preparing for my missions trip into Africa last year, the fundraising process, we're trying to create some creative ways to raise funds. So that's how it started. But I kept where I came up with the name. The mission is because, like how you said before you even came into this, everyone is here for a purpose. God put us here on the earth. It's not an accident, and every one of us have a mission or purpose to fulfill. And
Mhm.
so, for some of us, the mission is, family restoration. Some of us is entrepreneurship. Some of us, we all have something that we are called to. And so that's where the name came from, to remind us that when you buy these products is to remind you, yes, it's fly, you have a cute shirt or whatever to wear, but it's also to keep you reminded that I still got something that I need to be doing every day.
Mhm.
And so that was where the name came from. And what I use those funds for mainly is to continue to support people who are out there on the mission field, whether they're actually in the field, like I went to Africa, or if somebody is trying to be about, some kind of God project that God told them to do. If the funds are there, then I can use that account to sow into kingdom projects
Mhm.
and to help really push the kingdom. The mission is for the kingdom to advance,
Yeah.
and whatever way, whatever sector God called you to. And it's not just preaching, because He told us to go into all the world, to every
Mhm.
space. So if I see somebody with really like a God idea, and I have the funds there, that especially in that account, like I
Yeah.
really will try to use that to help sow into that area.
That's what's up. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so, where can people get the merch?
They can go to the mission is dot myshopify.com.
Okay. The mission is.myshopify.com. And
Yes.
on that note, I'm not sure who this may be for, but I just want to encourage you to remember what your mission is. For those of you who may be familiar with the story of Joseph, he didn't get along very well with his brothers. Some of that may have been on his part, some of it may have been on his brother's part, but he ended up being sold into slavery. And I imagine, of course, everyone talks about, oh, he went from the pit to the palace. He went from the pit to the palace. He ended up being, second ruler and command over the whole land. But if you think about like what had to be going through his mind, like dealing with all the emotions involved, like, man, my family doesn't even love me. They um I was just trying to help. I was just, they sold me, like they disowned me, and now it's like I'm here in this dungeon, and I'm not sure what's gonna come of my life. But if you keep on reading, God God being the great orchestrator that He is, not only restores Joseph and blesses him with favor in the sight of Potiphar as well as favor in the sight of the king. But he Joseph is placed in the second in command, and so God, being all knowing, He knew that in the future there would be a famine in the land. So He sent Joseph ahead to prepare, and to set aside rations and food for his family, the same family who disowned him. Now they have this reunion, and of course, I'm sure Joseph had a lot of time to process the hate, but and everything, but he walked in God's love. And when you continue to walk in God's love, no matter how it feels, yes, at one point he broke down and cried because he was so glad to see them, and he walked in love. When you walk in God's love, it really opens your eyes and helps you see like the grand picture, and that God used what was meant for bad. Bless you. God used what was meant for bad and turned it into something good, not just for him, but for his brothers, for his father, for his people. And so, whoever that's for, just be encouraged that no matter what you're going through, God is more than able to make what may look like not a favorable thing. He's able to turn it around. You may feel like you're at the end of the line, but turn that line around and you end up being at the first. So just continue to hold on to God's unchanging hand, and just know that God's got you. Like in that footprints, the footprints in the sand, and those times when you see only one set of footprints, those are the time that He's carried you, and He's continually carrying you and will continue to have you, because He hasn't brought you this far just to bring you this far. So you be encouraged, whoever that was for.
Amen. Amen.
Man. And so if there's someone watching this who feels they have big dreams, but doesn't feel their circumstances are lining up to what they know is within them, and if they feel stuck in some way, what words of advice would you give them to help them see beyond what they see?
I just would encourage them to know that we all get stuck. It's part of the process, but just to continue to reiterate what we were saying throughout the whole entire broadcast, all things are truly possible to them that believes. There's nothing, there's no situation, there's no circumstance that is too hard for God, and sometimes we can't see it because we're looking at ourselves and our own possibilities.
Mm,
And within yourself, it's probably not, but when you partner with Him, then it can absolutely happen.
mm,
And so it's just, I want to encourage you to not give up. Like I said, my life
mm,
is proof that it's possible. Every situation, nearly every circumstance that you can think of, where I've had moments of being stuck, His grace has come in and has pulled me out. So I'm not just saying it because that is the biblical thing to say. I can say it because I've experienced it. You know, I've walked through death, I've walked through divorce, I've walked through abuse, a loss of a child, all these things that would stick us, trauma after trauma. And each time I was able to get up because the love of God and His allowing His grace to come in and help me do the work. So I just want to encourage you to stick in there and know that He will bring you through here too. Like Brian mentioned, you are here for a purpose. If there was no reason for you to be here, then you wouldn't be. There is a reason why you are here. And so that reason now has to become your why. Just like He told me, if I die, everything connected to me will die. The same for you. This has to become your why. What is, you have to find your why. You have to find what your mission is, because that will be the driving force to help you get unstuck. That will be the reason that when I do go off in a ditch, I'm going to find a way out, you know, because you understand what the assignment is. You understand that you have a mission. You understand that it's not just about me, there's a bigger picture. And that's what the thing that will help you come back around and get you back on track. But you're absolutely here for a purpose. You are needed and you are necessary. And so I would just encourage you to get back in there. Reach out for help if you need it. You know, say, "Hey, I can't do this by myself," and we weren't meant to. Like, that is the greatest thing that you can say. You know, and those words can shift everything. So that's what I would encourage them to do. You know, reach out, get help, um, you know, get into the word, get some accountability, and start really realizing why you're here, so that way you can get busy doing what you're called to do.
Wow. Awesome pearls of wisdom. I like that. And God's strength isn't made perfect when we're running around like a chicken with its head cut off trying to make things happen. But when we're able to, as it says in Psalms 46:10, be still and know that He is God in the midst of that vulnerable, transparent, weak moment, in the midst of our weakness, and His strength comes and overrides the weakness and empowers us as well. So His strength is made sufficient only within our weakness, because His strength and our strength, it has to be, we have to decrease so He can increase in our lives.
Yes.
Yes, and finally, how can people reach out to you if they want some merchandise or if they need a session with you?
Yeah, I just tell everyone you can follow me on social media platforms, on Instagram at Michelle.M Farrar, and that's Farrar. You can, oh, it's on the screen. You can follow me there on Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook at the same Michelle Farrar. You can also go to my website, which is michellemfarrar.com, and there you can make the appointments for the onward session, for the coaching. There's a link for the store. And you can also find those on my social media platforms as well.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. You are a beacon of light to many, a vessel of hope, truly a bridge over troubled waters. Continue to be the awesome, phenomenal, epic woman that you are, and seize every moment. And remember, to the world, you may be one person, but to one person, you may be the world.
Amen. Amen. And thank you for the opportunity. I love your show, and just thank you for the time. And it's been great.
Yes, yes, definitely. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you've been greatly blessed. Definitely feel free to not only like and comment and subscribe, but feel free to watch it over again and to share. Sometimes, like when you're watching a movie, sometimes you see things in a movie the second time and maybe you didn't see the first time around. So be blessed, bless others with this as well, and continue to be inspired. And y'all be blessed. And as always, this is BDP, Brian David Porter, living in purpose, on purpose, intentionally. Love y'all to life, for real. Until next time, you guys be blessed.